Hello, everybody. All right, this is Secular Sekai with Tridents Against Tyrants, and welcome to today's stream. Apologies for things getting started a little bit later than usual, by about an hour. Yesterday was just a very busy day for me, and I was up late speaking to multiple people about various projects. On and off of YouTube, and so yeah, I just wound up getting very little sleep and unfortunately overslept a little today. So I do apologize, but as always, we will continue onward, and this stream will remain consistent. And unless there is a true emergency, um, as usual, this stream does not get canceled, and if it does, then all of you know exactly why and how the schedule is going to be reshuffled to make up for it. All right, so let's see here. First and foremost, before we jump into the news, there were a few questions that I got that I'm going to go ahead and answer here at the beginning of the stream. Also got several suggestions for the first time this week on various pieces of news and videos to look over for today's stream, for this week's stream. So we'll take a look at a few of those resources. All right. Oh, okay. So we got a question in the Discord, and I'm gonna go ahead and answer it on stream as well as in the Discord itself. And it's pretty straightforward. Just a question I've actually been welcome at any time, and I'm glad to get because it was directly in the fundraiser questions channel. Question is, could you explain to me and anyone else who reads or listens along who is who and what is what when it comes to the fundraising effort? As in, if someone sends a tenor through PayPal, what happens next? Who are involved? And does my tenor turn into a drone? Where does that happen? And who's taking it to the front for us? Several reasons for the question. First of all, they obviously no one wants to be scammed. And of course, we always want to be transparent. That is the goal and the reason for sharing any details that anyone wants to know. That doesn't hurt operational security or doesn't hurt in terms of revealing too much financial information, of course. And no one wants to lose on their funds. Secondly, I see loads and loads of fundraisers going on just in general, and wonder why they aren't more concentrated on the likes of United-24, which is directly to the armed forces of Ukraine. So yeah, this is a really great question. So to address this, basically, let's start with our fundraising efforts here on YouTube on the channel. And basically, when you let me pull up a picture even. Should have had this picture pulled up already, but I'll do so now. So when money gets sent in, basically via PayPal or via PayPal. Well, right now just via PayPal and Monobank. We have a few other things going on in the background to set up donations through other platforms. And I've been working out the logistics of how to do that. But through those two platforms, PayPal and Monobank, when you send money, it goes directly to friend and partner of the channel, Anton Tkachenko. And he's very open. If you check every stream, that's the name on the PayPal that you're sending money to. He lives in Ukraine. He assists with acquiring drones and anti-drone guns and other equipment, not just through our channel, but through various means as a volunteer and assistant for the armed forces of Ukraine. He purchases what is needed, either from Ukrainian manufacturers themselves directly, or from retailers, from those who sell what is needed in Poland or anywhere else that ships to Ukraine, and then takes pictures of the products after they've been purchased, and takes pictures again when they've been delivered to the soldiers of the 110th Mechanized Brigade. So let me... I'm having to scroll back a little bit. While I'm getting that, several of you probably recognize Anton because he specifically has appeared in video updates and picture updates here on the channel in the past. Okay, I'm going to be scrolling for a second, finding this picture, because I'm trying to find one that just... Here it is. Yeah, sorry. Had to keep scrolling for a sec before I could find it. All right, let me go ahead and share this with you guys. 1 second. All right. Oh, also, I don't believe there should be, but if you do hear any background noise at any point during the stream, I apologize, and please let me know so I can take care of it. But yeah, I think it should be fine. All right, and here we go. Pulling up the picture right now. There we go. So, to continue answering, now that I've got the picture pulled up, this is Anton, who many of you probably recognize if you've been following the streams along, who assists us, and he has, mentioned there's no issue with, his face being known. So when you send money currently, it goes to Anton. Anton gathers equipment like these anti-drone guns that you see here in this picture as an example. And then pictures and videos are taken at time of purchase, during any other important updates, and during deliveries and handoffs. Also, hey, welcome, Dick. Glad to see you here. So that's where the money is currently going. Now, in the future, if we open any additional fundraisers, because we're still working on closing out the fundraisers for the 110th Mechanized Brigade, who serve in Avdiivka, then if there are additional individuals, partners, anyone that we're working with to send resources to, then updates to that will be mentioned and revealed and all that. But as of right now, currently any money that is sent in is going to Anton, getting the supplies, and then getting to soldiers. Now, the next part of the question was, all right, how does it turn into a drone? Yeah, how does it turn into a drone? Where does that happen? Who's taking it to the front for us? Well, that's answered with this, which is your money goes to Anton. That happens inside of Ukraine itself, and Anton himself, he drives around different parts of Ukraine and he delivers them in person. So that's how that's happening. So again, always want to be transparent, always want everyone to be aware of where their money is going. And that's with anything. If we open up a shop and it's like, however it ends up working, like a portion of proceeds or 50% of proceeds or 100% of proceeds are going to Ukraine, whatever the details are, that'll be shared with you guys. Because that's the most important thing. Like you guys are willing to be here and donate, or or if a shop does open, purchase something in support of Ukraine. And I want to always make sure that whatever is set up is both financially sustainable, but most important of all, that it is something that you guys trust and you can see, all right, this is legitimate. I see where everything is going. And yeah, we do that by building a community and having communication like this. Now, the second part of the question that I'm going to answer is about just in general, like everywhere on and off of YouTube, how there are loads and loads of fundraisers. Oh, there's no pick. Okay, hold on. Oh my god. Okay. I'm sorry. I've got multiple screens in front of me right now. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to juggle a lot of stuff solo on the fly to get you this information. But now you should see Anton, and everything else I just said should apply to what you're seeing right now. So for anyone who's just now joining us, welcome. Thank you and welcome. We're just doing a quick Q&A answer here at the beginning of the stream to let everyone know about donations and where their funds are going. I was an idiot and forgot to press one little toggle, and so Anton's face wasn't visible on the screen for a second. But anyway, yeah, long story short, for anyone just now joining us, when you donate, it goes to Anton. This is Anton. He purchases the supplies, and then those supplies get taken, pictures and video get taken when they're purchased. That he drives around, takes them where they need to on the front, and then pictures and videos are taken when they're handed off. So that's the short summary of it. Now, the second part of this question that I received is, in general, there are loads and loads of fundraisers going on, and I wonder why they aren't more concentrated on the likes of United-24, which is going directly to the armed forces of Ukraine. This is actually a very good question, because you'll notice if you check the description of pretty much all of my videos that I always include a link to United-24 for anyone who wants to go through a really large scale, official fundraising effort of Ukraine, in this case, the president of Ukraine, President Zelensky, for United-24. And that's perfectly fine. Like, people do that. I strongly encourage people to make donations there. Yeah, I should be. Taz, keep an eye on chat. I know. I mean, I've got it open right now so I can see your guys' comments. Sorry, I was going through multiple pieces of software to get everything pulled up. Anyway, so where was I? Oh, yeah. Basically, the reason why you don't just see everyone on United 24 is because, and I've heard a few other YouTubers from Ukraine, pro-Ukraine YouTubers, people who just do their own fundraising efforts discuss this. You do have some people who directly do their contributions to United 24. But I guess the big thing is that money, with United 24, it all goes into a single collection. There's multiple collection funds. They get all of their money from donations. They have one for defense. They've got one for humanitarian aid. They've got one for rebuilding Ukraine. And so you can pick and choose what you want to donate to on their platform. In fact, here, I'll go ahead and share the screen for anyone who's not familiar or, yeah, maybe hasn't been around for a second. Share screen. And we'll just go to United 24 so you guys can see it. And there we go. Okay, so this is United 24. I've shown it on the channel several times. It's got an official government website for, well, I guess you can't see it right now because I'm sharing the screen, but not the whole window. But it's u24.gov.ua. And yeah, so it's an official government website of the government of Ukraine. And yeah, as mentioned, there's funds for education and science, defense, rebuilding Ukraine, etc. And basically, the reason for multiple different fundraising efforts is just the fact that this gets to where it needs to go, and it does get there. It does get there, but just like anywhere else, there's limited. Like they've fundraised quite a bit, like almost $600 million here, and that is quite helpful. But you have to remember, this is when you're including all the equipment and everything that has to go to the front lines. This is a multi-billion-dollar war, and these funds collected, the total up here that you see highlighted on the screen, well, that you can see me hovering over on the screen, this is gone for all of those different initiatives, not just for the military, not just for the army. So when you donate to United 24, it goes to whichever fund you donate to. Then they have to divvy up and decide, okay, what funds that are from this portion, which portion of the funds for the military are going to go to which units. And yeah, in the end, it is quite a bit, and they get lots of great supplies out there. But it you have to wait for the wheels to turn, and there's not a knowledge of if you do look, they've got different specific fundraisers, so you can probably dig into them to see exactly which units funds are going to. But it's kind of one large fund affiliated with the government. With the grassroots fundraising efforts like what we're doing, we can get the stuff that, like, if we can fundraise it in a timely manner, we can pretty quickly get everything purchased, have the manufacturer or the retailer either make or ship whatever supply it is, and then get it out to a particular unit fairly quickly by comparison. So the reason why we've got so many different fundraising initiatives all around is really just to support specific soldiers and units, some of whom maybe are overlooked and aren't getting as much money from what's divvied up by the government or the Ministry of Defense, and some of whom maybe just in a particular moment, because the war has heated up really crazy in their area where they're serving, like Avdiivka, for example, make sure that they have what they need to do their job and defend themselves. Anyway, I hope that answers the question. I'm going to check chat right quick. Yeah, yeah. Well, I see what you said in. Oh, yeah. Well, everyone can see because I've got the chat overlay set up. But I see what you said, Greg. I guess it hasn't updated on screen yet, but it's true. Yeah, there are a lot of platforms out there, and many people do focus on kind of their own fundraising efforts, and that's not a bad thing. I don't knock them. Anyone who's doing legitimate fundraising, especially for things like the NAFO trucks, it's fantastic work. But the reason why I include the link to United 24 is for again, for transparency, because I mean, anyone might just show up and be like, I just hear a guy talking on the internet. I don't know this guy. I don't, I mean, like if they're new to the stream. But I still want to give to Ukraine, but I want it to go to an official government source, so that's why I always give the option. We try to be as transparent as possible here, so that people are aware and there's trust built in the community. But also, at the end of the day, if you're like, I want to give to a Ukrainian government entity, not just a private grassroots fundraiser, I always include the link for United 24 so people have that option as well. And it's always in the description of videos. So yeah, that'll continue to be the case. Anyway, with that done, let's go ahead and look over a quick update regarding our current fundraiser. Let me pull that up. Okay, and there we go. Oh, it is mirrored. Hold on. Oh, I have to fix that. One sec. All right. So top bar is for the 110 FPV drones for the 110th Mechanized Brigade. Bottom one is for the anti-drone gun. And so, and I guess to continue following up on this, because this has also been mentioned on the channel, but I'll mention it here because it adds on to the question I just answered. The way that we have this set up is because this is a really large fundraiser for the 110 FPV drones and, fair decent sized one for the anti-drone gun. Anytime donations reach a point where a portion of it could be used to purchase more drones or to purchase anti-drone guns or batteries and other parts of, components for the anti-drone guns. That portion gets withdrawn and subtracted from the total goal amount. So like when we first started, it was something like 2,200,000 Ukrainian hryvnia for the 110 drones. And it was something like, I want to say 200,000, 200 or 220,000. I'd have to go back and check for the exact number, but it was about 200,000 for the anti-drone guns that we are fundraising for. And, over the course of time, the weeks that we've spent fundraising, that's now come down to 54,455. So making very good progress. But yeah, that is how that model works. When we have to withdraw funds so we can get things where they need to go, we subtract it from the total amount left. All right. Yeah. You listen to a morning radio station that says support Ukraine, defend freedom in the world. They don't make a dime off of it. Links you to United 24. That's fantastic. I'd love to know the name of that morning radio station. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and we've got another question here. In fact, we've got a few questions coming in through chat. So let me take a look. Yeah. So actually, yeah, if you have the name of that, Greg, I'd appreciate it because that's really fantastic. I love radio shows, radio talk shows, podcasts, all of that. And yeah, there's plenty of initiatives out there that don't make a dime off of anything, and it's just passing the information along for who to donate to and to support Ukraine. And that's fantastic. Yeah, for any organization that's getting up off the ground or trying to get set up, whether it's a nonprofit or any other business that supports Ukraine, that's another big part of it. Breaking down the numbers of what percentage is going where. But like any show that's doing something like that, I greatly respect. So yeah, I'd love to know. All right, Mertzy. I've heard that the anti-drone guns are not as effective any longer. Is there any truth to that? So, from what I understand, yes and no. It's not really that they aren't effective any longer, period, full stop. It's more that they're having to adjust them on the fly on the ground because the enemy, the Russians, they adjust their frequencies and they figure out ways to prevent jamming from the anti-drone guns on their drones. So that means that the Ukrainians have to adjust their frequencies and have to kind of update the weapons that they're using on the fly to address what the Russians are doing. So it's not that they're less effective. It's more that the Russians stopped just like basically failing to do any protections whatsoever on their drones. And so now Ukrainians are having to adjust and counteract the Russian attempts to defend their drones and infrastructure with it's electronic warfare. So it's a back and forth. So they are still effective, but Ukrainians are having to put in more effort on the field. Anyone whose job it is to maintain and do adjustments to that equipment in order to utilize them to their fullest effect. But I actually had the same question. So I asked Anton, who in turn asked soldiers who are serving at the front, and they said that they are still using them and they are still effective. It just depends on the particular day, the particular scenario. But yeah, so that's why we're going to be finishing out the anti-drone gun fundraiser. Also because we've come this far. I mean, the anti-drone guns themselves are already purchased. All that's left is the batteries and additional components to make sure that they are working long-term at the front lines. All right. Oh, I see another comment, Mark, that you've donated to United-24, but sometimes you worry that their platform might be a victim of graft or corruption going on in Ukraine. I mean, here's the thing about that, and many people have talked about just in general corruption in Ukraine. And that's why, of course, we kind of almost obsessively focus on transparency here. And it's because, yeah, I mean, there is unfortunately a history of corruption in the past in Ukraine. It's not as bad as other parts of the world. Okay, I mean, I would say it's at about the same level as a lot of, or in the past, before recent anti-corruption crackdowns, it was about at the level of other Eastern European countries outside of the EU. And as for current initiatives, especially anything related to the military, they keep a close eye on stuff like that. They know that they need these funds to, defend their country and to push the invaders back. So corruption involving military hardware and equipment, it is a problem. It's also something that is highly illegal, I'm certain, in Ukraine. So, yeah, United-24, at the end of the day, just like anything else in life, whether you're giving to a nonprofit that operates in Africa or to a government agency or nonprofit that feeds children in Canada or America, or helps out with some of the water crises in parts of those countries, or you're giving money to United 24 or anyone else who operates in Ukraine. The only thing I can really tell you is this: you have to do your own research. You have to use your own eyes and your own thought processes of what you do or don't want to trust. And part of what we try to do here on this platform is give you the tools and information to make exactly that decision. All right. Now then, okay. I've covered a few questions, and I think we've gone over this quite a bit. So let's jump into the news a bit, shall we? Let's see here. Okay. We're going to start with a video while I'm pulling up some of the articles that we're going to cover today. So let's take a look at some videos that were recommended to us by members of our Discord. Oh, and also let me go ahead and set up the Q&A portion. So if people have questions, they can more easily ask them on YouTube. All right, Q&A has been launched. Oh, yes. Also, just so everybody's aware, I got a slightly late start to today because it was a late night working on multiple things yesterday. But in addition to today's show, I'm gonna be immediately after the stream. There's gonna be two things. Immediately after the stream, we're going to have a talk in the Discord, and that's going to be the usual call campaign that we do every week. And I'll post some updates about that in the Discord. And also, later today, at about 2 p.m. Central Time, and so 10 p.m. Ukraine Kiev time, we'll be doing. I'll be on the shills for the update with Starsky this week. So if any of you watch the shills, please be sure to come by and check it out. And actually, in addition to that, let me go ahead and just grab the link for you guys, and I can pin it for right now. Chat. All right. And let me pin this. All right. Okay, so next let's go ahead and pull up that video. And I have not watched this yet because yesterday was so crazy busy. So let's start with this one. Oh, wait. Well, someone sent me not a video, but a Telegram link, and I don't use Telegram, so I can only read it. Let's see. Well, it's not a video, but I'm going to share this information regardless. As many of you may have heard about recent updates, we'll close the link, the fundraiser bar for 1 sec. United24 Media announced that Britain and Sweden have joined the drone coalition from the Ministry of Defense. Sweden and Great Britain have announced that they are joining a newly formed drone coalition. It was previously created by Ukraine and Latvia. So that's a nice update. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Unfortunately, I was given updates, but they are not video updates. However, they are still important and useful, so I'm going to share them and, just give you guys a little bit of info. These are quick social media posts, so these are quick before we get into the meat of the usual news show. So let's see here. As many of you may have heard, this is posted in relation to current announcements from the EU on January 26th. EU to take away Hungary's voting rights if Orbán blocks aid to Ukraine at the February 1st summit, reported by Politico. So this is significant. As many of you may have heard, so not only has the issue of more aid to Ukraine been contentious regarding Hungary within the EU, but also Hungary has a lot more focus on it right now, and this is the face of the guy I usually talk about that many of us don't like, Viktor Orbán, who's blocked aid to Ukraine and not really spoken the most favorably of Ukraine compared to Russia. Now, also within NATO, we currently have the situation where Turkey finally was able to negotiate a settlement, I guess you could say, and they signed the papers affirming the accession of Sweden into NATO, much like how Finland has officially joined. Sweden is right at the cusp of it. The only one left in NATO who's holding out is Orbán's government in Hungary. So now all the focus is on them, both in terms of EU voting to send aid to Ukraine, as well as NATO, voting, signing of paperwork to allow Sweden into NATO. So, yeah, just kind of satisfying to see the Orbán government backed into a corner a little bit. All right. With that, let's pull up a video to watch related to these topics that we're covering today. We'll jump into the issue of the plane momentarily, because there's a lot to unpack there, and honestly, I don't want to speculate. We're just going to go based off of what news is currently available on the topic. because it has been a hot button topic, a bit of a hot button topic. So, all right. So we'll go with this from PBS. And since I'll be offering commentary, I guess if PBS does have an issue, they'll let me know. But we're gonna watch this just to get a little bit of an update from a major news outlet on this. So, PBS, if you're listening, I am offering commentary, and this is merely a sharing of news for the public as a PSA. So, please keep that in mind. All right. And with that, I'm going to be quiet now, and we're going to watch a little bit of this.
Welcome to the News Hour. We start with two intertwined and looming issues. High-stakes negotiations over a possible deal to aid Ukraine and reform the U.S. immigration system are at risk of collapsing under their own political weight.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Yeah, Mertzi is mentioning PBS might get you for copyright. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it does have the logo right there. Which is very frustrating because all I'm doing is offering commentary, which I think should fall under, the right to report on this information. But it's very annoying. You are probably right, and I don't need a copyright strike. Okay, all right. Hold on a sec. Would there be a copyright just on the audio? Like, could I do this with just the audio without showing the screen? We're gonna take the risk anyway. And if there's an issue, then, and this particular live stream has to go down or something, then, okay, so be it. Because you guys deserve to get the best quality reporting and commentary available. We'll just cover a few highlights, not the whole video. All right, so congressional correspondent Lisa Desjardins. All right, let's take a listen. Yeah, as we are. Oh, all right. Now, let's go.
Welcome to the News Hour. We start with two intertwined and looming issues. High-stakes negotiations over a possible deal to aid Ukraine and reform the U.S. immigration system are at risk of collapsing under their own political weight. Congressional correspondent Lisa Desjardins spent the day speaking with lawmakers on Capitol Hill. She's here now to...
All right, I'm going to break it up every 20 seconds or so. This is something that's been going on for quite a while in D.C. And it is something that we all would like to see sped up a bit.
Explain. Lisa, good to see you.
Good to see you.
So bring us up to speed. Where do things stand on Capitol Hill?
After these weeks of very urgent and serious talks between lawmakers on Capitol Hill and maybe some less serious sound bites from others not involved in negotiations, we are now on the edge of a complete failure by our lawmakers to either address the border security right now or...
So, yeah, and this issue is one that not only is tied to Ukraine, but also it's been tied up with border security. It's been tied up with additional support to Israel, to Taiwan, various other miscellaneous topics and assistance to allies, and internal funding for the U.S. So, yeah.
Figure out what they want to do to help or not help our allies in Ukraine. As you know, we were reporting those two issues have been linked since President Biden linked them in one bill, and Republicans for policy changes at the border before they would support Ukraine funding. So let's look at where we are in this moment about that idea of linking these two bills. Right now, negotiators that have been working on trying to get that deal together actually have a...
So this is an important part to note, because a lot of the time people focus on the minority that has been holding things up, and it's usually the MAGA faction of the Republican Party who fingers are pointed at. And while it's true they have been spoilers on a lot of this, negotiations between the majority of Democrats and Republicans has worked out on policy of what they want to do, but not regarding the exact dollar amounts. So it's really just nickel and diming, unfortunately. Let's keep listening.
Agreed on policy, I'm told by familiar sources, but they haven't yet figured out the dollars, how much money goes where. That's obviously a big problem, but the policy chunk is a huge breakthrough. However, conservatives have increasingly become skeptical on that policy. At the same time, leader Mitch McConnell has made it clear today that he ideally would like a combined deal.
That surprises me a bit. Not the part that conservatives are skeptical, but that there was any indication from Mitch McConnell about setting up a deal anytime soon. Okay. But all right. That is good news if something can be agreed upon. I just hope it doesn't end up being the amount going to Ukraine ends up being a quarter of what it was originally expected to be, because the number that the public received in the past was about 60 billion.
However, he has a different problem. Former President Trump opposes the combined deal, especially opposes the border security portion. And since New Hampshire, McConnell and other Republicans have started referring to Trump as a potential nominee of their party, and they've said he wants to run on the border issue.
So yeah. Exactly. Unfortunately, this is something where that is receiving a lot more focus, and part of that is because of the allegedly, and I say that because I don't know who might listen, and with regards to what I say, what commentary would be considered alleging certain politicians having this stance or that. Unfortunately, Donald Trump, of course, has not been very pro-Ukraine. We all know that. And this focus on the border is just to take focus. It really just takes focus away from assisting American allies. Let's watch a little bit more and then we'll call this good.
What we have here is a political problem. Mitch McConnell said that behind closed doors to his Republicans last night, that no matter what they want, the politics mean that this kind of deal may not be able to go forward for Republicans. Meanwhile, what is going forward are those negotiations. The three senators that have been behind closed doors for weeks now, there they are right there, one Democrat, an independent, and a Republican. They say they will work throughout the week with Democratic leader Schumer in the Senate saying he.
So this is very good to see. Actually, and again, the focus on the fact that it's, did she say one Democrat, one independent, and one Republican? Yeah. And this is the kind of thing we need to see. Not just bipartisan, but bipartisan and nonpartisan federal level cooperation. So the fact that negotiations are including independent congressmen and senators as well. My understanding of this is that when this reaches the Senate floor, things are no guarantees, but things are probably cleared. It's mostly been the House of Representatives in the U.S. that has been holding up these deals. So hopefully we'll get some good news Monday once the weekend is through. Okay, so that's just a quick update. We're not going to go through the whole video because, again, I'm concerned even just doing 2 minutes with heavy commentary like this of a PBS video, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update there. All right, now then, let's switch over to this article, and I'm going to share it with you guys. I'll pull this up for right now. And while I get that set up for you. All right, and as usual, I'm going to put the link to this in the chat. This is an article, so if you want to read along, feel free to visit the link. All right, and so headline on this article, which is posted, and I'm going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and pin it as well. All right, so that article is also pinned in chat now. And thank you very much to all mods who were able to make it today. Thank you for posting links in the chat, Anna. It was a busy week, so didn't have a second to set up some of the auto post stuff, but really appreciate you putting the links for the monobank for our fundraisers into chat. Thank you. All right, now then. All right, so Senate deal on border and Ukraine at risk of collapse as Trump calls it, quote unquote, meaningless. From Washington, D.C. A bipartisan Senate deal to pair border enforcement measures and Ukraine aid faced potential collapse Thursday as Senate Republicans grew increasingly aware of an election year compromise that Donald Trump, the likely Republican presidential nominee, says is quote unquote meaningless. Yeah, anything. I treat Trump like Russia. Pretty much anything he says, I assume, is a lie. Either a lie or an intentional exaggeration, which basically functions like propaganda by hyper-focusing on something and in order to stir things up. More, yeah. Senate negotiators have been striving for weeks to finish a carefully negotiated compromise on border and immigration policy that is meant to tamp down the number of migrants who come to the U.S. border with Mexico. But now that negotiations have dragged for weeks, election year politics and demands from Trump are weighing it down. At stake is a plan that both President Joe Biden and Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell have worked on for months to broker in hopes of cajoling Congress to approve wartime aid for Ukraine. Okay, so yeah, actually going back to what was briefly mentioned in that clip from PBS, that again, PBS and YouTube, heavy commentary added on that. Fair use policy. So they've worked on it for months to broker in hopes of cajoling Congress to approve wartime aid for Ukraine. The U.S. has run out of money to supply Ukraine, potentially leaving the country stranded without robust supplies of ammunition and missiles to fend off Russia's invasion. Again, this is just politics. The U.S. has plenty of money and supplies that could be sent. Money and supplies that otherwise wouldn't get used, that would be decommissioned equipment. And even the newer stuff, I mean, it's all helpful. And the only one doing the real fighting right now is Ukraine. So, it's an investment in the future so that when Russia decides, and they have decided that they're going to try to take the Baltics, try to take Alaska at some point. They want to do that. At least Putin's government does. Stopping them now in Ukraine, pushing them back, destabilizing the Russian system to the point of balkanization. It's important. Yeah. Because they aren't going to stop. They'll just keep doing this stuff. Trump on Thursday ramped up his criticism of the potential compromise, writing in 2 lengthy posts on his social media platform that it would be, quote-unquote, meaningless in terms of border security and, quote, another gift to the radical left Democrats as Biden runs for re-election. The former president said the Senate is better off not making a deal, even if it means the country will close up for a while. He did not propose alternate policy options. This is something I've noticed quite a bit with Trump when it comes to the economy. Basically, just outright saying, no, it's like, if we close things up and people suffer right now when I'm not president, while Joe Biden is president, then it's, the heat goes on to the current president. So from Trump's position, basically, it's, and he's outright said he could delete somebody in broad daylight and he wouldn't lose any voters. I mean, unfortunately, among his most fanatical base, that's true. So it's not surprising. Nothing that is done or said by him really, to a degree, can affect part of his voting base and their cult-like support. In a closed-door Republican meeting on Wednesday, McConnell acknowledged the reality of Trump's opposition, that he is the party's likely presidential nominee, and discussed other options, including potentially separating Ukraine and the border, according to 2 people familiar who spoke anonymously to discuss the private meeting. Punchbowl News first reported the remarks. Let's see. And this article keeps going on for a while, so let's get the final portion as a summary so we can move on to a video. So yeah, let's get the last bit of this article. And again, it's pinned, so anyone who wants to go read it themselves, please feel free to do so. All right. Here toward the end, seeking to hold off objections from Trump, Republican senators have argued that the policies under discussion would not have an immediate effect on problems at the border and would even give Trump greater border enforcement authority if he is reelected. The issue will still be a live issue, and I think it'd be one of the defining issues in the campaign, said Senator John Cornyn, a Texas Republican. So we need to do our job here. Also important to note that nominally, Cornyn has declared himself to be pro-Ukraine. So, yeah. Hopefully we'll continue to see strong support from Cornyn specifically toward aid to Ukraine, but even he, I believe, on certain issues has, I won't say yes or no on that because I need to go take a look at his voting record to verify any information, but he is a prominent figure specifically when it comes to matters about Ukraine in U.S. politics. So good to see him quoted here. But this week, a vocal contingent of Republicans have raised objections, including with heated exchanges during a closed-door Republican lunch on Tuesday. According to several senators in the meeting, they have argued that presidents already have enough authority to implement hardline border measures, and Trump should have his say. If we expect him to be able to secure the border, he ought to be able to see this bill, and he ought to be able to be engaged and say, is this going to help me secure the border or not, said Senator Rick Scott, a Florida Republican, at a Wednesday news conference. What we know is he doesn't need it. Senator J.D. Vance, an Ohio Republican who is a Trump ally, said he spoke with the former president about the deal last week, and he expressed worry that it would be, quote unquote, too weak. When it fails, as it will, it allows the president to blame, quote unquote, MAGA Republicans for the failure of a border security package, when in reality, what failed was very weak border security package that didn't actually do anything, Vance said. So now we're seeing here, and this article is almost over, that it's kind of this back and forth. Who can blame the other side? Can MAGA rile up the American public and make, say the current administration failed, all of this fell through because they, their weak policies and refusal to negotiate. And then, of course, on the side of the Biden administration, MAGA Republicans, they don't want to play ball, and, they basically are blocking everything in order to, to make us look bad, but it's really their fault. It's just this finger pointing game, and it's a little asinine. Some Republicans worried walking away from an opportunity to enact border policy could backfire. If we were given an opportunity and we decided for political purposes not to do it, yeah, I think we could be in serious trouble, said Rounds. A lot of our candidates could be in serious trouble back home. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so that was a lot, but I guess the general summary, the gist of it is that, expect more of this before November. I'm cautiously optimistic we'll see at least one more Ukraine aid package go through from the U.S. before then. And some of what's been mentioned here in this article does give me hope for that. Only time will tell, but yeah, hopefully that will be the case. Oh, I just noticed I have the extra owl on. I'm gonna temporarily turn him off. All right, now then, let's go ahead and move away from U.S. politics and back into the front lines, shall we? And we'll do so with an update from Juzzy, who I expect to be, who is awesome. He's fantastic. And yeah, go check out his content, check out his channel. All right, now let's go ahead and continue. We'll get a little bit of an update on what's happening at the front lines with Juzzy.
Day 702 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzy here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 380,000 military personnel losses, which represents an additional 990 in the past day. Then as for hardware losses, a comparatively smaller day off the back of two ginormous days. But as for today, the losses include 8 tanks, 16 APVs and 15 artillery. Then we'll head across to the map, start out in Ukraine today, in fact in the Donbass, as Russian forces in the north are still dead set on taking Sinkivka. In fact, more correct to say that it is just beyond the border of the Donbass in the Kharkiv region. And what a grind this location continues to be for them, as most recently, Ukraine's 2nd Mechanized Battalion of the 3rd Mechanized Brigade repelled those attacks just north of the settlement. Russian forces reportedly lost 2 BMP infantry fighting vehicles in this latest attempt. Then briefly moving to Bakhmut, as still being very much an active region for military engagements. Because most recently we saw a Ukrainian SAM team intercepting an incoming Russian Lancet loitering munition with the Swedish supplied RBS-70. Then moving a bit further down on the map.
That's nice to get an update from the Bakhmut area. And actually, the most recent video that went up on Terra Ops unit, they served in the Bakhmut area, as well as several others in that general region. So, yeah, be sure to go check that out. We're going to have a series of videos on different units, military formations of the Ukrainian armed forces, and a bit about their history, just in general details about them.
Just outside of a day ago, and worthy of a mention, was how a Ukrainian HIMARS precision rocket hit and destroyed large amounts of manpower and equipment of Russian forces in a strike on a Russian FPV drone training ground in occupied Donetsk. And as it so happened, a member of the Russian crew sent out coordinates of the training ground via an unsecured Telegram channel, which was then picked up by Ukrainian intelligence. Think Bordanov. As such, it was reported that 24 Russian FPV drone operators were eliminated and 4 injured. A popular Russian Telegram channel was also able to corroborate the story. So realistically, we're talking about a bunch of Russian soldiers training for the FPV program.
Sorry, I accidentally double clicked in that exited full screen. Let's see here. Oh, and one more thing. Let me really fast. Let me reorganize my screen so I've got all the things I need to open in front of me. All right, let's continue.
Program, wanting to learn the latest 21st century military tech, only to be made the subject of the efficiency of the 20th century military tech made in the USA. Then moving west briefly to the front lines, as we noticed at Stepova in the north, a Russian infantry assault ran into a Ukrainian Bradley M2 IFV, with the Bradley quickly engaging the Russian formation with its 25mm Bushmaster autocannon fire. So at this point, I just to visualize a Bradley M2 just on sentry duty. Then somewhere in the east, there was the
Just briefly want to touch upon the map and yeah, take a look at everything in Avdiivka. Yeah, guys, we are going to continue to fundraise and get our supplies out to the guys in Avdiivka. It's slow going, just like everything in this war. It's a slow grind, but there's a lot of fighting in general happening here. And for anyone who's been following along regularly, as you can see from the map, yeah, it's not good. You know, Avdiivka holds, but the Russians continue to creep in. And they've made it clear that they're willing to sacrifice another 100,000 of their men and just their economy, all the shells that they have in their... They've already used up a bunch of their shells that they themselves had produced, purchasing them from North Korea now to help fill the gap, in addition to ramping up their own production. So, like, the Russians have made it very clear after Bakhmut, like, if they really want to take certain land, that they will basically use their artillery as demolition equipment and just level a city to rubble, at which point it's just... there's no mountains. There are very few mountains in Ukraine. I do see a few hills and small mountains here on this map, in the Avdiivka area and Ukrainsk, Lisvika, others. But yeah, Ukraine is mostly flat. You know, if a city is reduced to just level flat land and rubble, you don't have a city anymore. It's just a position. So, hopefully we do not see that happen with Avdiivka. And as a matter of fact, right now, as you can see, as you all have been able to see, I'm sure, the PayPal link that goes to Anton, which is then used to purchase supplies and get them to the soldiers in Avdiivka, is rolling at the bottom of the page. So anyone who would care to join in, I'm about to make a donation right now. I'm going to donate $20. If anyone wants to join me, feel free to do so. Next week, there's also Monobank, and the links to those have been posted continuously throughout this stream. But Monobank doesn't always work for everyone outside of Ukraine. So we will have some additional donation options soon. I've been working behind the scenes because here's the thing. I want to make sure, however it gets done, if we set up new payment platforms, that it goes directly to Ukraine. I do want to set up, like, I don't know, something like a membership option in the future. And I've been mulling over how to do that for people who want to support the channel specifically financially to help it grow. But as far as direct donations, I don't want confusion. I don't want someone to send in whatever it might be, a super chat, buy me a coffee, stream elements, whatever, and be like, not know, okay, you know, not be aware, where's this going? Like, I'm working behind the scenes to get that set up, so it'll be going to Anton, and then Anton will be using that to get the funds that are needed for soldiers. So, one sec while I get this sent right now. And then we'll continue with the video. Sorry. I got inspired there. At that moment, seeing the map of Avdiivka. Shoot. Okay, well, hold on one sec, because I just remembered I had to deal with a stupid PayPal issue the other day, so I gotta log back into my account so I can send this. One sec. Here, while I'm doing that, I'll let you guys watch a little bit more of the update from Juzzy.
M2 just on sentry duty. Then, somewhere in the east, there was the destruction of a more modern Russian T-80 BVM tank variant. That one was pretty close to Crimea, in fact. Then we saw the destruction of a Russian 152mm Mr. S SPG, also in the north near the Kharkiv border. And then, impressively, we saw the destruction of the Russian Morom P thermal imaging surveillance complex, which was actually struck by an FPV drone. Rammed right into it. Then we'll head across to the Zaporizhia front lines as the AFU took a liberation chunk out of the Orikhiv axis just northwest of Verbova. Then, just across the field, which is in fact a surface area that's larger than Bakhmut or Avdiivka in size, Ukrainian forces repelled 3 assaults southeast of Robotina. So then we'll move across to the Kherson Oblast, as there's really been a lot of ongoing activity here, as Russian forces on the ground are clearly getting the word from their upper command to eradicate the Ukrainian bridgehead presence found at multiple locations along the south bank of the river. And wave after wave of Russian infantry and vehicles are getting destroyed still.
Oh, I see a message here. Oh, so in chat, Greg, yeah, I also really like Juzzy, and I really don't, because he doesn't do, to the best of my knowledge, very many streams. It's mostly his news updates. I think that's how he prefers things. I don't know for certain. I've never spoken directly with the man, but he's very good at what he does. So yeah, it is nice to see more of Juzzy. I would love to speak with him if anyone has a contact and if he would be interested, but really, his news updates alone are just phenomenal.
By way of Ukrainian FPV drones, particularly at locations such as Krinky and Oleshki. But somewhere along the lines of communication between the Russian assault forces on the ground and the Russian MOD, there is a clear disconnect, because we can generally see that these Russian forces are going headfirst in smaller units, one after the other, only to seemingly find out that they have to contend with, well, by and large, those Ukrainian drones. So it is a rather bizarre set of ongoing circumstances. And I don't think it's unfair to say that the Russian military should be able to eliminate enemy bridgeheads on an otherwise completely occupied piece of land. Then, since we're moderately close enough to...
Okay, and that has been sent. So I made a donation to the anti-drone guns fundraiser. Once Anton gets a chance to transfer from PayPal into Monobank, that should be reflected in the Monobank jar. But yeah, I'm going to try to close that one out, guys, because we're slowly getting closer to being able to do so. And because, yeah, those anti-drone guns, they are helpful. Ukrainians are able to use them, from what soldiers at the front have informed Anton. And then we'll continue to fundraise for the FPV drones. Like, they're both crucial. They're both very important, and we're going to get those to the people who need them. All right. Now then. Hold on one sec. I'm going to check questions and chat real fast. Let's see. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The clarification about what Trump said before. I use delete because of YouTube sensitivities. And I also miss reporting from Ukraine. I hope that they're back on at some point, more frequently. All right. Oh, Mark, they're both for helping you, Avdiivka. Are the fundraiser, and of course, there's also, if anyone checks the description, there's a link there for United 24. That's separate from our campaign, but is always there for anyone who wants that. But aside from the United 24 link, the link for monobank to the 110th Brigade for the anti-drone gun or 110 FPV drones, those both go to the 110th Mechanized Brigade serving in Avdiivka. It's just numbers. The anti-drone gun is less expensive compared to 110 drones, so that one will likely be able to close out sooner than the really large fundraiser we're running here on the channel. What I really want to do is get more creators on board for the 110 FPV drones, like show them what we've done so far and get a few more communities on board with it, because it, you know, as large as our fundraiser is, guys, and it is large compared to what a lot of grassroots channels do, like for one particular fundraiser they're focused on at a time. Like it's a big bite to take for a channel the size of this one at the moment. It's still like, I got a quote from someone telling me that in Avdiivka alone, it's looking like they'll need more than 300 drones per month right now to conduct operations on the scale they need to hold back the Russians. Like, that's a lot, in every single month, three times the amount that we're doing. And 110 FPV drones, it's like at the price that we're getting them and sending them over for like $500 or $600 a drone. So like around 66 grand. And imagine multiplying that by 3 every single month. The scale of this war is huge, and that's just in one region. Across the entire front line, it's astronomical, the hundreds, the thousands of drones that are needed on a monthly basis. It's a lot. And it's because of these shortages. Like, Ukraine doesn't have enough artillery right now. Like, they're having to rely on, using drone tactics, like kamikaze drone tactics, get in there, don't get shot down, and infiltrate enemy lines to, set off a drone in a strategic position where it's a tactical position where it's going to be most effective. So yeah, there's basically, drones are very important to Ukraine right now, while aid is currently held up. All right, now then, questions. No questions so far. Yeah, or at least none that are in the questions category. So if anyone wants to ask any, feel free to do so. All right, and with that, we're going to watch a little bit more of Chuzzy, and then we're going to move on to the next piece of news.
To the north, the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania have recently planned a common defense zone on the Russian border, encompassing bunkers, fences, trenches, lookouts, and other various anti-mobility defensive measures. In the event of Russian aggression where the Kremlin feels like it can switch gears to quickly take one of these countries instead. And yes, they are all NATO countries, and Article 5 would certainly be triggered, However, that doesn't necessarily stop the Kremlin from making some poorly calculated military decisions, as they always do. Because they'd attack as soon as they think they can get away with it, as soon as they think they can get away with anything. As they have a very real tendency to get lost in their own echo chamber of BS, making them believe some Kremlin-produced ideas about delegitimizing the Baltic states, their right to NATO ascension 20 years ago, then having the strength to invade successfully. So sometimes you just have to protect yourself from an idiotic bully. So kudos to you, Baltic states.
Oh, I want to add on this that Juzzy just said. A lot of people also add, well, wait, but, NATO Article 5, yeah, it would be activated no matter what. The Baltic states are safe. You've got to remember, guys, that Ukraine thought it was safe. It didn't have something as concrete as NATO security agreements. It just had the Budapest memorandum. But it politically, Ukraine felt like it had something. Like, it was worded in there that, some argued, if anything happens, like the Americans have promised to help, but it wasn't explicitly will help by putting troops on the ground in Europe and Ukraine. So the help has been this aid, which has been affected by internal U.S. politics. NATO is relevant. It is powerful. It is the world's strongest military alliance of our era, of our generation. It's also agreements on paper. You have to understand this. And in the modern world where wars are fought, but they aren't called wars anymore, the late 19th century, early to mid 20th century trend, we'll just call it the military trend of officially declaring war on enemy states. Technically, countries can still do that. And if they really want to up the ante and, create pressure of some sort internationally, then perhaps they would. But states don't really do that anymore. Like, remember how everyone's been mocking Putin for saying there is no war? It is a quote unquote special military operation, even though the size and scale of all this is obviously a war. And one that has not been good for Russia. And of course has especially not been good for Ukraine. Countries, imagine a hardliner, someone who remembers maybe from their youth, who's a bit older, or even just someone who has a poor understanding or a conciliatory understanding of international law, saying, well, wait, should we really activate Article 5 because war hasn't officially been declared if there's some kind of conflict or something happens between Russia and any of the Baltic states? First of all, they would be drowned out by the rest of NATO, and that's not going to be tolerated. But that's a concern. It's a concern because it's all psychology and politics. Russia tends to be very good at embedding themselves in the in the political zeitgeist and the certain fringe elements of various countries' political systems. Imagine a future, who knows what the future holds, where in some way, shape, or form NATO has been severely weakened, and then, Russia swoops in to say they have to, like in Ukraine, gotta save the native Russian speakers of Latvia, as just a random example. It could be any country. But yeah, like, these are things that we have to be aware of, and we cannot be complacent. Let me repeat that. We cannot be complacent. All right, my rant is over. Let's watch a little bit more and move on.
Then headed across to some news for today. So France delivered 2 additional Mars 2 MLRS 2.
Oh, yeah, no. Real Vladimir Putin. And for anyone unfamiliar, that is not a troll. He is someone who is pro-Ukraine, whose username I've seen in multiple different multiple places. Yeah, World War III. A lot of people always say that World War III has already begun. There are plenty of people in the U.S. who are very aware that there's a hot war going on in Europe, and there is a major Cold War, not just brewing or kind of quietly plodding along, but ramped up significantly across the world. There is a Cold War right now between various actors in the Middle East across, and to a certain scale politically, across Europe. There is a Cold War situation brewing, which could turn hot at the flip of a switch in the Koreas and the South China Sea, in that entire region. Yeah, no, I mean, one could really argue that the Cold War never really ended. We've always been on the cusp of another potential world war. I mean, yeah, I'm not trying to be alarmist. World War III as a hot war has not started. Don't go jumping into your bunkers, everyone. But yeah, these things kind of flow into each other naturally. And so, yeah, as I said, we can't be complacent. And you have to take this, you have to take the fight to the enemy, both on the physical battlefield, as well as the economic, sociological, and political battlefields.
M270s to Ukraine. And as a brief refresher, these vehicles are similar to the HIMARS platforms in that they both fire the incredibly successful 88-kilometer ranged high-precision GIMLARS rockets. However, the Mars 2 has an extra 6-pod of rockets, and they run on the tracked wheels, which is great for a variety of terrains, especially at this time of year, whereas HIMARS is extremely mobile, as they say, on the 6x6 wheeler trucks, enabling them to travel extremely fast up highways to make it to other destinations as needed, to almost feel like it's in 2 places at once. So ultimately, it depends on the mission for the operational requirements for the platform chosen. And as for some further context, Ukraine has 12 of these Mars 2 platforms now, and 20 of the HIMARS, which were met with some incredible success on the battlefield, leading to memes like these ones, due to a Polish order for 486 HIMARS launches from Lockheed Martin after they served a pretty incredible advertisement campaign of sorts after their introduction into Ukraine due to their effectiveness against Russian positions. Then in some other hardware news, Germany has announced its 2024 round of support military aid for Ukraine, including more air defense systems such as the IRIS-T and Gepard air guns, more artillery with just under 250,000 artillery shells, although I don't expect all of those to be the 155mm shells. Then also 80 plus Leopard 1A5 block tanks, and other various inclusions such as APCs, drones, armored vehicles, and radar systems. And it might feel like this 2024 package from Germany is somewhat lacking, and it probably is, although this will be separate to the larger package from the coalition of European nations, otherwise known as the EU, which is certainly expected to be a lot larger in size and come in soon. Then compound that with individual nations' contributions, not to mention F-16s and all of those longer-ranged drone platforms, then we're quite likely to see Russia's ability to wage war severely decreased in 2024. Then squeezing in some fresh Russian hardware news.
All right. And so definitely a lot of great updates from Juzzy. Hope it's been informational to all of you. Please go check out his channel, because I realized I jumped into this, but I've pinned his channel in the chat and put it in the comment section, a link to this particular video. So as always, go check out the original creator, support his work, support his channel. Yeah. All right. Now then, let's move on. And one thing we have not really covered as of yet on today's stream we have not talked yet about the investigation of the plane that had POWs. Now, I am going to touch on this, and I'm going to cover some articles. As I do so, I want to make it very clear that, yeah, it's been a busy week for me. I have heard of this. I don't want to jump the gun. I'm not making any statements one way or the other in terms of having absolute knowledge on exactly what occurred with this event. But yeah, we're going to look into it a bit. And with that disclaimer in mind, let's move into it. Oh, also, actually, really quickly, before we jump into that final piece of news, because we are going to wrap up here in a little bit, because I do have additional Ukraine-related work and streams to get ready for, such as joining the shills today in a few hours. There is an initiative going on right now, and I've had a few people in my Discord server and a few other servers that I frequent mention it on multiple occasions. So just going to give a quick shout out to it. It comes from Lithuania, and after looking into it, seems to be on the up and up pretty well. So yeah, I'll put a link to it right quick. In the chat, and visit the site so you can all see it right quick. Because this is a short-term initiative going on from January through, mid-January, kind of close to the end of January to the end of February. All right. Actually, let's give that a title in the chat. All right, and let me visit this so we can all take a look. Oh, shoot. Okay. Thank you for letting me know, CF Beauty. I really appreciate it. Yeah, for anyone who isn't looking at the chat right this second, unfortunately, the stream with the shills has been canceled for today. So, yeah. We will be joining the shills again in the future, I'm sure, but for today, unfortunately, it seems that will not be the case. But I hope everything's great. Thanks for popping into my stream to let me know and let everyone else know. Okay, and the announcement is like breaking. It just now happened. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming to let me know. And yeah, I hope everything's good and everyone's doing all right. All right, thank you very much. Well, actually, I guess that works also because, well, I mean, no, I mean, I am looking forward to being on the shills and talking with you guys. But as far as the Discord call after this goes, I guess we'll go with this stream for a little bit longer than expected then. And then I'll be switching over to make an announcement in the Discord about our usual meeting to make calls for Ukraine, for anyone who wants to join that. All right, so let's share. And let's see. There we go. All right, so this is Radarom, and as you can see, well, okay, again, I guess the URL is not popping up, but You know what? Let's fix that so everyone can see it. And I'll do that with my extra screen over here. Let me grab the URL. For anyone who wants to see it on screen, exactly what website this is. So there it is. It's radarom.lrt.lt. Just so everyone can see it. And now back to the website. All right, so let's protect Ukrainian soldiers. We can all help Ukrainian soldiers and protect those who defend their freedom and ours. This is the English translation of the site. It's also in Lithuanian, Polish, Ukrainian, and also Russian. So donate 1,485 euro only in Lithuania. So there's an option to call and donate, but because this is from Lithuania, it seems this is specific for Lithuanians. That being said, I know that you can also support them internationally because multiple donations have been given. They've raised 951,899 euros as of January 27th, 2024. And that would be, I'm sure, at 1951. Yeah, so that'd be Lithuanian time. So very impressive. Wow, they've almost reached 1 million. So they've protected 126 Ukrainian soldiers. All right, so about the campaign. The people of our country have been relentlessly supporting war-torn Ukraine for almost 2 years now. Excuse me, as we approach the second anniversary of the war in Ukraine, LRT, together with organizations and activists that support Ukraine, invites you to unite once again and join the Radarom campaign. During the campaign, from January 24th to February 24th, everyone is invited to donate to one cause, protecting the soldiers who are fighting for the freedom of Ukraine and the whole of Europe. The funds raised during the campaign will be used to buy soldier protection packs. A pack will include a night vision monocular, a laser sight, and an individual anti-drone. One protection pack costs 7,500 euros. All professional equipment was manufactured by Brolis Semiconductors and NT Service, both based in Lithuania. So yeah, everyone, if you happen to be someone who's got if you want to make a small donation, or if you've got the funds to purchase an entire protection pack for soldiers, go check out Radarom. And yeah, I'll put a link to that in the description, so you're able to find it there after the stream is done as well. All right, now moving forward. Let's see here. All right, let's move to the final piece of news. Oh, actually, I have another piece of news that I also want to cover, but we're going to start with news on the plane because that's, of course, significant. Everyone wants to have some information on it. All right. So we'll go with another article from AP News. Fairly reliable news source. And as usual, we'll be putting the link to that in the description for all of you to follow along with. As soon as I get back to where I need to be. All right. All right, so that's posted in chat and pinned. Let's get this ready to discuss real fast. All right, so from AP News, Ukraine says it has no evidence for Russia's claim that dozens of POWs died in a shot-down plane. As mentioned before, I'm going based off of the available information I have right now on the incident, and if more comes to light, then please be sure to message me, let me know for the next stream, or inform us in the comment section or Discord. All right, thank you. So, moving forward. All right. Kiev, Ukraine. Officials in Ukraine said Russia has provided no credible evidence to back its claims that Ukrainian forces shot down a military transport plane that Moscow says was carrying Ukrainian prisoners of war who were to be swapped for Russian POWs. The Ukrainian agency that deals with prisoner exchange said late Friday that Russian officials had, with great delay, provided it with a list of the 65 Ukrainians who Moscow said had died in a plane crash in Russia's Belgorod region on Wednesday. Ukraine's coordination staff for the treatment of prisoners of war said relatives of the named POWs were unable to identify their loved ones in crash site photos provided by Russian authorities. The agency's update cited Ukraine's military intelligence chief, Lieutenant Colonel Kirilo Budanov, as saying that Kiev had no verifiable information about who was on the plane. So basically, for anyone unfamiliar, there was a plane that was shot down, and Russians are claiming it was the Ukrainians who did it. It was carrying Ukrainian prisoners of war meant to be swapped for Russian POWs. Ukraine is basically asserting that they do not see evidence that there were the Ukrainian POWs on board, as Russia claims. So basically, that it's a lie or an accusation of Russia attempting to carry out a propaganda or psyop operation to effectively change public relations, public perception of the war and Ukraine's actions. The Russian Defense Ministry said Wednesday that missiles fired from across the border brought down the transport plane that it said was taking the POWs back to Ukraine. Local authorities in Belgorod, which borders Ukraine, said the crash killed all 74 people on board, including 6 crew members and 3 Russian servicemen. We currently don't have evidence that there could have been that many people on board the aircraft. Russian propagandas claim that the Il-76 aircraft was transporting 65 Ukrainian POWs. Heading for a prisoner swap continues to raise a lot of questions, Budanov said. Social media users in the Belgorod region posted a video Wednesday that showed a plane falling from the sky in a snowy rural area and a huge ball of fire erupting where it apparently hit the ground. Kiev has neither confirmed nor denied that its forces downed a Russian military transport plane that day, and Russia's claim that the crash killed Ukrainian POWs couldn't be independently verified. Earlier Friday, Mykola Oleshchuk, Ukraine's Air Force commander, described Moscow's assertion as rampant Russian propaganda. Ukrainian officials earlier this week confirmed that a prisoner swap was due to happen Wednesday, but said it was called off. They said Moscow didn't ask for any specific stretch of airspace to be kept safe for a certain length of time, as it has for past prisoner exchanges. So, from what I'm seeing here, Kiev is not confirming or denying that it was them and not the Russians who downed the transport plane. So, yeah. Currently, among different articles I'm seeing, it seems that it's implied that Ukraine downed the military transport plane. But again, can't confirm or deny that. I don't have inside intel on that. Russia claims that in doing so, they killed more than 60 Ukrainian POWs. The timing for this, apparently there was a prisoner swap that was planned, but according to Ukraine, it was canceled. And so all they saw was a plane coming when the deal had already been called off. So it creates kind of this situation where you've got enemy aircraft heading into your airspace. You don't know what might be occurring, and they're doing it without permission, potentially, and claiming that they have POWs on board after the fact. So it kind of creates this catch-22 situation where you either let the enemy aircraft come into your airspace without prior authorization, or which could be a security vulnerability. It could be an issue. You don't know. I mean, maybe it's remotely being operated and it's got explosives and it's heading toward one of several locations you don't want it to, or it gets shot down. And so I recall seeing a few other articles that were saying that, just like it's mentioned here, it's a Russian propaganda. There weren't any prisoners on board, or that the claims by Russia basically are meant to create uncertainty, damage trust in Ukrainian armed forces, kind of use them as in terms of the narrative of POWs as a human shield, whether or not they were on board. So yeah, there's just been a lot of information going in different directions, and because of the claim from Russia of how many Ukrainian soldiers would have, lives would have been lost, a lot of emotion, and emotion causes people to react to information less rationally in terms of analysis. So yeah, an international committee of the Red Cross spokesperson in Ukraine urged Russia on Friday night to return the bodies of any POWs who might have died in the plane crash. In a live interview with the U.S.-funded Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, Red Cross Media Relations Officer Alexander Vlasenko also remarked that very little time had passed between the initial reports of the crash and Moscow declaring it was ready to return the bodies of the Ukrainian POWs. While Ukraine and Russia regularly exchange the bodies of deleted soldiers, each trade has required considerable preparation, Vlasenko said. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for an international investigation into the crash. Russia has sole access to the crash site. Russian President Vladimir Putin pledged Friday to make the findings of Moscow's crash investigation public. In his first public remarks about the crash, Putin repeated previous comments by Russian officials that everything was planned for a prisoner exchange that day when the aircraft went down. Knowing the POWs were aboard, they attacked this plane. I don't know whether they did it on purpose or by mistake, through thoughtlessness, Putin said of Ukraine at a meeting with students in St. Petersburg. So this is already, I mean, a huge red flag, everybody. I mean, it's very obvious that Russia is attempting to utilize this for information warfare purposes to make themselves look like the ones who were just trying to return return captured soldiers according to international law, etc. And the Ukrainians were the ones who reacted and caused an issue. It plays right into the Russian propaganda narrative a little too well, many have pointed out. He offered no details to support the allegation that Kiev was to blame, but said the plane's flight recorders had been found. There are black boxes. Everything will now be collected and shown, said Putin. Now, closing out this article. Oh, no, there's still much more. All right, let's see. As the war nears its 2-year mark, Ukraine is eager to demonstrate momentum to the United States and other Western allies supplying the country with weapons and other aid. A counteroffensive last year to seize Russian-occupied areas did not produce major gains. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba met with his Lithuanian counterpart in Kiev on Saturday. During a joint news conference, the two cited progress on joint drone production and reviving a European Union fund to pay for military aid after the bloc's leaders in December postponed an agreement to top it up. So, to close out this article, basically, it's a lot of finger pointing, a lot of he said, she said. And it really just comes down to who you want to put more trust in. The only ones who are really saying that it was, 65 soldiers on board a transport plane, that, POWs, and that it was allegedly that many people on board are the Russians. Ukraine isn't... they're neither confirming nor denying. They are saying they cannot verify the information. So we'll just have to wait until more information comes out and is available. Now, if it turns out that there were POWs on board, then, regardless from which side the plane was shot down, that would be a very tragic loss of life in terms of Ukrainian soldiers who have bravely defended their country. And so if that is the case, then my condolences to all the families. If it turns out this is just BS, it's just a Russian propaganda campaign because the timing was perfect, they had a prisoner swap, they were able to send out a plane even if it didn't have POWs on it, with the knowledge that this kind of a headline might occur and damage Ukrainian credibility, then hopefully we'll get more information about all of that. There aren't any specific names that I've heard of from the Russian side about who was supposedly on board or how they supposedly would have, gathered remains after a crash so quickly. So, who knows? it's a lot of it's war, it's war, it's propaganda, and it's espionage. So the information will continue to swirl, and one thing that we just have to hope for is that the truth will come out. All right. Now let's see. Let me check the comment section right quick. Yeah, and I'd also heard that, Mark, that local Russian hospitals reported only 6 people brought in, and photos of the crash site didn't show bodies. So where are the victims who were in the plane when it crashed? Yeah. Why fly prisoners on a plane instead of transport them some other way? That's another valid question. Especially with the knowledge that, you know, if a prisoner swap is called off and not going to happen, then you don't do that. You know, it's very obvious that you're going to be heading into a dangerous situation if the Ukrainians are not expecting you, especially in a plane. Yeah, and other prisoner transports have been by train and other vehicles rather than aircraft. Sorry, I see your comment, colorless circle. Saying that the plane was also transporting 13 NATO aircraft carriers, 932 submarines, 3 Bodanovs, 9 Zelenskys, over 100 Zaluzhnys, some 95,000 NATO major generals, and a guy named Steve. So yeah. Currently, again, can't say for sure one way or another, but it really is looking so far. You got to ask yourself, who do you trust? And the last person to trust is the Russians on something like this. Yeah. Well, in any case, we'll have to wait and see what additional headlines and information comes public on this. So I'm not going to make any statement one way or the other on my thoughts or predictions regarding this. But now you all are aware that this is an event and something for everyone to be following along with. All right, everybody. So let's see here. We have been going for more than 2 hours. So, all right. Let's see here. All right. We're going to go ahead and, yeah, because I have a call that oh no, that's right. I've got a little bit more time still. Well, you know what? We'll go for a little bit longer. There's still more news that can be covered. For example, another thing that I've been wanting to discuss is the situation of individuals that have been conscripted, coerced, or enticed to fight for Russia from foreign countries. Many countries, unfortunately, have citizens who are now fighting on the Russian side. Some have been illegally drafted because they were visiting Russia and basically just told to go to the front, and their own country's governments just didn't care enough to, allegedly did not care enough to prevent this or to cause a bigger stir with Russia regarding the issue. And in other cases, you have people who have actually voluntarily gone to fight for the Russians. So let me put this in the chat. All right. And I'll pin it for everybody. All right, let me get this set up. Okay, and here we go. Nepal wants its men back from Russia's war in Ukraine after deaths on the front. So, from NPR, Siangja District, Nepal, Rima Karki is angry, but she's good at hiding with a stoic look on her face. The 31-year-old woman from Nepal received a letter from the Nepalese embassy in Moscow with news that her husband, Pritam Karki, had died on November 15th while serving in the Russian military in Ukraine. Thousands of miles away from their village in the Siangja district of Nepal, her husband used to send her texts and voice messages on the Telegram messaging app every 2 weeks, but the communication had gone silent. In his last voiced message, Pritam said he was in Russia, away from the front, and tried to reassure her, "My dear wife, this country is huge. It's risky on the front line, but I'm not there, so it's all good. It's just a matter of 1 year. After that, we will have a citizenship card, and you can move here with me." So in this particular example, there's someone who went to Russia and got involved in the war, supposedly to gain Russian citizenship, which is truly horrible, in my opinion. Getting involved in a war like this and fighting just so you can get citizenship in Russia, and assist with the invasion and annexation of another country's land, no sympathy from me. But let's continue reading. He was referring to the Russian government's offer of citizenship to foreigners after 1 year of serving in its army on a contractual basis. He was one of hundreds of Nepali men Russia has recruited to bolster its military forces in nearly 3 years of war against Ukraine. Now, after some of them have died or disappeared, Nepal's government says it's taking steps to prevent citizens from going and urging Russia to send back the country's men. I didn't know much about the situation in Russia, Rima Karki tells NPR, saying her husband kept details from her. He never told me stories of war, never told me about the hardships he faced there. He used to say he is safe there. Had I known about the war, I would have never let him go, she says. Only after I heard the news of his death, of his death, I could sense that he was hiding things from me. He said he was off to Afghanistan. Rima and Pritam Karaki had been married for 15 years and had 2 sons. A seasoned soldier, 40-year-old Pritam had served in the Nepali army for 16 years before going to Afghanistan to work as a security guard at a U.S. base in 2020, according to his uncle. When he returned home 3 years later, Nepal was in the midst of an economic crisis with rising inflation and falling tourism. With no work opportunity there, he paid a broker in Kathmandu in October of last year to get him to Russia. Before leaving, he told his mother he was going to Kathmandu to renew his visa for Afghanistan. He had actually flown to Moscow and called her later to say that he had landed in Russia for a new job. And we'll go ahead and move ahead in the article a bit. Russia makes an enticing offer. Nepal's citizens, and I only do that for time constraints because some of the articles are a bit long. And that's why I put it in there for you to go and read the entire thing, take a look at it, follow along. Nepal's citizens have served security duties in Afghanistan and other parts of the world. Nepal's soldiers, known as Gurkhas, have long served in foreign forces such as the British and Indian militaries. But Nepal says it has no treaty with Russia for Gurkhas to serve there. Nepalese Gurkha soldiers have served with the British. They've fought in Afghanistan and many other parts of the world. They are quite well known among special forces of the world, for anyone unfamiliar. Nevertheless, Nepal's foreign ministry estimates 400 of its citizens have gone to serve in the Russian army. Nepali fighters in Russia interviewed by NPR believe the total is more than 1,000. Russia has been luring them with offers of Russian citizenship and salaries of about 300,000 Nepali rupees, 2,260 a month, while providing a little clarity about what their roles would be, the Nepali fighters say. The deal is appealing to some men in Nepal, where typical wages are much lower than that, and unemployment hovers around 11%, according to the World Bank's latest estimate in 2022. This provided fertile ground for smugglers to exact thousands of dollars from men to send them to Russia via Dubai and India. Pritam's mother, Kumari, calls it a trap and blames the Russian government for sending her son to his death. And a quote from the mother: "The Russian government should have kept their army in the front line of battle and not our men. If we had known about the situation, we would have tried our best to bring Pritam back home alive. We would have begged or done everything in our power to make ends meet. We would have rescued him," she says. Not only were they unable to bring him home alive, but also to get his remains back from Russia. Now, Nepal has confirmed 10 deaths, but more are suspected among their citizens. Nepal's foreign ministry confirmed 10 Nepali men were killed in the Russia-Ukraine war and 4 were taken prisoner by the Ukrainian army. Police and news reports in Nepal say the casualty number could be higher. And this has been happening. I recall similar news several months ago from Cuba and the Cuban government not being happy about it. Same thing happening now with Nepal, several African countries. Unfortunately, Russia, they don't want to send their own, like they are drafting citizens of other countries when those governments don't want them to be doing that before they're willing to start and officially announce another wave of mobilization in their own country. It's sickening. It's illegal. It goes against international law. And seeing news about governments like Nepal's government calling Russia out on this, it's important. Russia can't just be kidnapping whoever they want and then sending them to the front lines in Ukraine, or offering these contracts and then, enticing people to try to get citizenship, not because they care about this war at all, but just because they're trying to escape economic hardship back home. It's pretty ridiculous. So, closing out this article, generations of Nepalis have fought for other countries in combat or served other security duties, but Nepal faces a new crisis with the Ukraine war. The government is appealing to young... Let's go ahead and highlight this. All right. The government is appealing to young people to not leave Russia and give their country a chance. Our government is prioritizing employment for the youth of the country. Nepal has a bright future. We have so much potential in the hydropower, agriculture, and tourism sector. We will come out of the economic crisis soon, and the country will move forward. Within a few years, the pressures of going outside for a job won't exist, says Saud, the foreign minister. But the assurance is too little too late for the injured Nepali soldier at a Russian military camp in occupied Ukraine. Petrified at the possibility of being sent back to the front, he pleads, "Help me, I'm trapped here." To his government, I'm sure. To anyone. So, yeah, everybody, pretty ridiculous stuff. And I guess I just wanted to highlight this because I think it doesn't get mentioned often enough when it comes to the issue of how Russia is conducting themselves in this war. War crimes not just against Ukrainian civilians, but also against other nations by bringing in their citizens, by creating a situation where they are having others fight for them in an illegal war to seize land and power. Yeah. All right. With that, we have been going for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. We're going to go ahead and call it good for today. What I am going to do before we finish the stream is, let's see here, we'll switch back. All right. What I am going to do is, let's see here. I'm going to set everything up on Discord really quick for the call following this stream. Apologies, was just getting some messages right quick. All right, so I'm gonna set up the meeting for everyone who is interested in taking part in our call campaign. That will be starting here momentarily, and I will be putting a link here for everyone who wishes to join us after the stream. And we'll start that in about 20 minutes. Yeah. For anyone who's not on Discord, I'm thinking that next week we will be using another platform that allows for setting up a meeting. Actually, you know what? I'm right here. Let me check this. Sorry, we're doing this on the fly right quick, but for all interested, please stick around for one more sec. All right, so here's how we're going to do this. I've created it in Discord for everyone there who wants to join. We're going to be starting in 20 minutes. And for everyone here who would like to join, I'm already inside of the, I'm already in the waiting room. So we're going to test this out this week and see if this works well with a Google Meet. So anyone who would like to join, this link that I'm posting, and I'm pinning, will be for joining the meeting. And I should get an invitation to allow people in. So yeah, if you want to join, feel free to click that link, join us on Google Meets, US and EU citizens specifically and especially. And we will be going over the spreadsheet, which I'm sure most of you have probably seen and are familiar with. If not, then let me share it right quick. Just one of them. I'll just share the US example. And as you can see, we've got activity. We've had people doing phone calls and emails and sending physical mail to their representatives. We've got 2 spreadsheets so far, one for the United States, one for the European Union, and we plan to grow. We want more people involved. So please feel free to join us. All right, everybody. That just about does it for this stream. So I hope to see people in a few minutes over over on Google Meet. And yeah, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini. And yeah, I'll also see a lot of you, I'm sure. Oh, wait. Am I sharing the screen? Should be. Oh, no, I'm not. There we go. There is the spreadsheet. As you can see, multiple people on it. So anyone who wants to join, feel free to join in. And I'll see a lot of you, I'm sure, tomorrow at Rick's stream on Rick the Ukrainian's channel. And yeah, have a great day, everybody. Oh, Gord, did you just join us? Well, we are closing the stream right now, but if you want to, the pinned message is for the call campaign to assist Ukraine. We've got one set up for US and EU citizens, and we will be trying out Google Meet this week. So yeah, feel free to click that and let me know if it works for you. All right, everybody. With that, we're going to call it a day. See you next week. Stand with Ukraine. Donations to our fundraisers, especially via PayPal, are very appreciated. And yeah, we will continue to stand with the armed forces and all of Ukraine. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.